What kind of results have you seen since we started working together?
So the positive responses, there's been about 300 so far. So when you and I were talking and then when Nafal got involved, it was clear that you guys stand out from a lot of, or almost every outbound agency. It was clear that you were both just thinking about like our actual business. It's like, great. One last thing I would say is that working with Understory, the tight integration with all of our software has been really important. I didn't even know I needed that when looking for an outbound agency. So.
All right, Eric, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. So before we even get started, quick intro. So who are you?
I'm Eric Ullman. I'm the CMO of Warespace. Warespace is a real estate company that focuses on providing small warehouses. Our main tenants are usually small businesses, and we fill a pretty large gap in the real estate market of warehouses under 2,000 square feet. If you look in any city, finding a warehouse under 2,000 square feet with a loading dock and climate control, you're going to find almost nothing, and that's what we're here to do.
So you have a great product, great business, and you guys are selling into a market where there's definitely a clear need. One thing is that's a beautiful situation when you're doing lead generation. So you're filling a gap that's actually very much in need. So you've been working with us for how long? A couple months now, right?
Yeah, I think month of onboarding. We've been actually active for 2 full months at this point.
So 3 months total.
Yeah.
And talk to me about your lead gen situation before you started working with us. And I shouldn't even say lead gen. What was your outbound and go-to-market engineering?
Right. We do have a lot of channels. And so outbound, originally, it was actually one of the first things I did for Warespace. At the time, I was actually managing it myself a year and a half ago. As a consultant, and I was really big on cold email, knew a thing or two, watched a few dozen YouTube videos and like, you know what, I can do this. When I was working with them as a consultant, I basically spun up, a smart lead account and got started. There was some good initial results, but it's huge, heavy lift. It's hard to find. Our specific ICP is actually not so easy to find. Sorry, with caveat, not easy to find on the standard tools that most outbound marketers use, like Apollo and, even LinkedIn. And we serve small businesses. Often they might have almost zero presence online, not even a website. So how are you going to find them on Apollo if they don't have a website? It's just not possible. And, so it hit a certain limit, and along with all the manual effort involved, I kind of just, gave up on it for a year. And then I brought it on another agency. It was like, great, let's try again cold email. And let's this time, now I'm full-time at the company. I'm going to hire someone to manage this. And, hit a very similar issue where the agency, they had, infrastructure to send at a high volume, but when it came to actually building the list, they came up with nothing. It was like laughable low quantities of people to contact, and it's like, okay, well, this isn't going to work if we're cold email. Big part of it is volume. That's the way you're gonna make an impact, and most of the time. So I came to Understory, to figure out maybe these people can use their brains and find a way to identify who our customers are, get the list, and then systematically conduct the outbound.
And how did you find us, by the way?
So Zach, who's our VP of marketing, when I was just complaining to him about the experience with the previous agency, he's like, check these guys out. I think he had seen your content on LinkedIn and whatnot. And so, okay, let's give it a try before I give up on this channel completely, because unless I do it myself, no one's going to be able to do it well enough. And so when you and I were talking and then when Nafal got involved, it was clear that you guys stand out from a lot of, or almost every outbound agency. I think that, the reality is that the bar is low to call yourself an outbound agency. Like, you really can just make a smart lead account and then, now you're out. Now you're an outbound agency. That's it. Not like being a doctor. You actually need actual board certification to do it. You can just call yourself an outbound agency and there you go. And it was clear that you guys are, smart, experienced, thinking about new and innovative ways to do things, but also just, I don't know how to say it more sophisticatedly, but you're using your brains for each client. I think that's the important part, is actually thinking about our business and then how are you going to do outbound for our business, rather than here's our playbook and we can adjust this little lever here and this button here, which I feel like is a lot of how agencies operate on all fronts and on all marketing agencies. But, it was clear that you were both just thinking about our actual business. It's like, great, forget Apollo. We're not even going to think about Apollo. Let's go to this place for e-commerce. Let's go, Google Maps for contractors and service businesses. And the amount of leads we've been able to scrape has been more than I even thought was possible. So that's obviously good news, because, we just apply the same conversion rate across. That means more customers. So I think that was, one of the big things that stood out, was just, thinking about actually viewing us as a business, not just someone to apply a playbook to.
Right. And I think that's critical. And that is the approach that we take with all of our clients, right? It's not a plug and play cookie cutter approach. Everything is totally bespoke. We have different tactics for every client that we work with. What we do have, though, is repeatable processes that we know work in certain situations. And we've been able to apply a lot of those to your business. And thankfully, it's worked out very well. So I want to ask you the next question.
Everyone can say that, though. Everyone says they have bespoke processes.
They can say it, but we show it. You know,
right. I don't know. Like, how do you, as the owner of the agency, like say it so people believe you? Maybe you need people like me to say it. I don't know.
Well, that's why we're on this call right now.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
So I want to get into the next question, which is, what kind of results have you seen since we started working together? Lead volume, quality of leads, things like that.
Yeah. So the positive responses, there's been hundreds so far, and
hundreds, right? Not 100.
Yeah. So I think about 300 so far, and we're also we're just dipping our toes in the water. We're only operating outbound in a few markets. We've only gone out of 2 out of like 6 or 7 categories for ICP, and it's more than we can handle the response management for. So
great problem to have.
Yeah. So essentially, where we are now is considering putting a full-time sales resource on the managing the outbound response, positive responses from cold email. And one of the interesting things is I found is that about 50% of people respond with their phone number and their email signature. So when I launched the channel initially, I always like to personally manage something before I like delegate and build a process for the rest of the team. I think they probably wish I did that a little longer than I do, because sometimes I hand things off, 80% good, but I do like to get at least to 80%. And what I just started picking up the phone and calling people when they responded, and I found that that was huge. You just call them, get them booked for a tour, and it was just so easy. So, getting people to just raise their hand and waving their credit card and saying, hey, I'm interested in this. So yeah, one of the biggest challenges has been, managing the volume of responses. We're pretty much have that worked out now. And then, the next few months is just about scaling volume and getting better and better at turning those positive responses into booked meetings.
Yeah, and hopefully you feel the support on our end too. Our goal is to make it easier for you to actually field those responses. So whether it's using tools like Master Inbox, which you actually got on your own, which we're helping you manage now, orchestrations or workflows in HubSpot, things like that. It's all the type of stuff that we like to do with our clients, because ideally every client has an experience like you where they have such an overwhelming lead volume that they need a better way to actually field those leads. Yeah. Last question. So who would you recommend Understory to and why?
Yeah, so I think Understory is best for people who want to take outbound seriously and are willing to invest in it. I think that, if you just need a meeting or two a week, or, a deal or two a week, there's ways to do that. I think if you're really trying to scale it and turn it into a channel that can compete with your other channels, whether that's paid Google ads, paid social, to get into the volumes that those channels are able to produce, I think that's where Understory really stands out from a lot of the other providers out there, from both the list building, the strategy in terms of getting that list to the emails to be delivered and then responding positively and then managing the responses from there. The way I view cold email before is like, okay, we can like sprinkle in an extra deal or two here and there. But now what's looking like is that it'll stand up as one of our primary channels, which is absolutely huge. Google has been the primary driver of traffic, tours, deals for us for a while, and whether or not this becomes the number one, I don't even know if that's maybe not, having it be one of the top 3 channels and a reliable part of our playbook for when we do launch in a new market. That's a huge deal, especially, it's good to diversify channels as well. Relying all on one platform, all sorts of things can change. Whether your account gets suspended for whatever reason, whether it was you violated something or not, you can easily get suspended from any ad platform. And what are you going to do for the week or two while you're sorting that out? What if a platform algorithm changes? What if anything changes? You're kind of like, then what? So having diversification is important. I think one other really interesting thing, I'm going on a tangent now, separate, but I think this will be helpful. An interesting thing about our responses have also been about like the incrementality of this channel. A lot of people on Google, they'll search, if they need a warehouse space, the first thing you're gonna do is search like warehouse space near me, or go to LoopNet and search. Like, you're gonna actively search. If you are not in the market, you're not doing that. So our question has always been, how do we diversify away from Google? The way to do that is finding people who are not actively in market. And people have specifically responded and saying, wow, I wasn't even looking for warehouse space, but this sounds sounds amazing. When can I come by for a tour? We're actively generating demand. And one of the ways that when I first learned cold email from a mentor, he said something along the lines of, that cold email is like, imagine you're going door to door in a hailstorm and you're not trying to convince anybody. If you're a roofing contractor, you're not trying to convince anybody that they need a new roof. What you're trying to do is find the person who has a leak pouring down in their living room, literally with their head out the window looking for someone to help them get their roof patched. And I think that's what we've been able to do, is find those people who are, we're just waiting for us to reach out to them. They had no idea we existed. And you're able to like pick those people up from the channel. And the actual responses that come from people are, they say that like, oh wow, like I was just talking to my business partner about this yesterday. And yeah, so I think that seeing the incrementality as well from the channel is huge, because even if we sign 20 deals in a month, who's to say like we wouldn't have had those from our Facebook ads or Google ads. So that's obviously important to me to justify the actual investment in the channel, is seeing net new deals come from it.
Yeah, the incrementality is critical, and I think you touched on a really important part, which is demand generation and demand capture. Like Google is a great channel for capturing demand, right? Email is a great channel for generating demand. And I think that's something that you as the CMO have done a great job in understanding and pushing forward as an initiative. You're reaping the benefits of it. So
yeah, I think one last thing I would say is that working with Understory, the tight like integration with all of our software has been really important, where there are things that I've done that I didn't even know could be done. So in terms of how we're integrating with HubSpot, and that helps us also measure attribution and helps the reporting be super clean. I didn't even know I needed that when looking for an outbound agency.
That's our job, we show you things that you don't even know you need and make your life easier. That's what we're trying to do.
So there you go. All right.